It's an historic weekend for Formula One. The first Chinese Grand Prix at the magnificent brand new circuit on the outskirts of Shanghai. Hello there. Well, China has hardly any motoring history, but it can now boast the best racing venue in the world by some distance as well. It's taken less than 18 months to build on swampland. It's cost £180 million. They're expecting a 150,000 crowd here on race day. There is a real buzz around the place. The vibrant city of Shanghai is opening its doors to the biggest international sporting event China has ever staged.
Michael Schumacher's the main attraction in this new territory. He has an unusual spat with a cameraman after a rare failure for his all-conquering Ferrari in Friday practice. Next day, though, Ferrari back in focus. He's quickest in pre-qualifying. For qualifying itself, we welcome back Jacques Villeneuve. The 1997 world champion replaces Jarno Trulli in the Renault before his move to Sauber next year, when Trulli will be in a Toyota. And Melo Villeneuve says it's like coming home, but he starts outside the top 10. BAR team boss David Richards says he's confident that next month's ruling on Jenson Button's contract will mean that Button stays put and won't join Williams. Button is still delivering. He goes quickest through the final sector. The BAR Honda's on the second row. Rubens Barrichello's coming off a perfect racing weekend in Monza. In contrast to Button, the Brazilian loses time after a stunning second sector. Pole position looks a shoo-in for his teammate. Kimi Raikkonen's aim is to be the top Michelin runner and to get ahead of Button. It's mission accomplished, and then promotion to the front row as Michael Schumacher blows it.
He's been so calm on that warm-up lap, trying to save those tyres, and he went for it to get a good entry onto the hot lap and just pushed it too hard. Now he spun off. He's Michael gone way off track.
So it's Barrichello's Ferrari on pole alongside Raikkonen, then Button. It's Sauber's best of the season, Massa 4th, Fisichella 7th, fit again Ralf Schumacher's 5th. Alonso's Renault makes it 6 different cars in the top 6. A fine effort from Panis in the Toyota, Coulthard punished by a small error in the mid-sector, but ahead of the moaning Montoya. The big story, though, is down the back. After qualifying, Schumacher changed his engine, so he starts stone last. Sato losing 10 places after changing his engine on Friday. What a scenario for the first Chinese Grand Prix with Martin Brundle and James Allen.
6 different makes of cars then in the first 6 slots on the grid. Shows you just how competitive it is towards the end of this 2004 season. Ferrari got a bit of an uphill struggle with Michael Schumacher there starting from the pit lane. They're going to put the tyres on and the fuel in as soon as the red lights go out, and then what will the world champion do? This is a real test of his mettle, of his brilliance, and for sure we're going to see him and that Ferrari extended to the maximum here this afternoon.
There's not really a clean and dirty side of the grid here, because the natural line is to diagonal the pit straight to be on the left-hand side for turn 1. And so the cars are sort of passing pretty much through the middle of the pack. So pretty equal grip, I would say, left and right.
A giant step then into the Chinese Grand Prix. The first ever is... Go! Look at that, Montoya diving out from the back. Barrichello goes to cover Raikkonen. Button's up well, but he's been passed by one Sauber and by a Renault. Terrible start for Jenson Button. The Sauber and the Renault side by side into turn 1. The Renault on the inside. Massa in the Sauber gets a little nudge, and that allows Button through into 4th place. Rubens Barrichello leads then from Raikkonen. And everybody looks like they've got safely through. Button, though, still behind that Renault. Fast starting of Fernando Alonso.
That is worth millions to them, isn't it? And look at Massa coming back at Button and takes him. I thought Jenson really had been led off lightly by passing Massa, who's knocked out of shape. But Massa's just attacked straight away. Button back to 5th place then. Bad news for him. There was a Toyota almost stalled on the grid. It was Panis. He's down in 18th place.
And Fisichella has had a terrific start also in the sister Sauber to Sir Felipe Massa. You can see Massa at the top of the screen as Barrichello leads Raikkonen, with Alonso a little way back in 3rd. Then it's Massa. There's Button. Then Fisichella, Ralf Schumacher, David Coulthard, and Zonta goes through. Little lock up there from Jacques Villeneuve on his first competitive lap for over a year. Up 2 places then, Jacques Villeneuve off the start line into 10th place now as they come down this long back straight. And Jenson Button has got to get back past Felipe Massa, because we're going to start seeing those Bridgestone tyres fading a little bit. Massa, though, has got other ideas. He's having a look up the inside of Alonso.
And look at slipstreaming at the back there. That's a recovering Panis in the Toyota. Looking at the backer, trying to pass Glock in the Jordan. And he didn't make it.
And in the distance, in the far, far distance, is Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari, entering the top of your frames. Where is he? Just coming in, anytime now. There he is. That's the end of lap 1. That's how far Michael Schumacher is behind his team leader, Rubens Barrichello. It's 16 seconds and counting.
I'm very much off message here, but this is not Hermann Tilke's best racetrack in my view. The corners are too technical. It doesn't really, you can't flow, you can't attack, there's no payback, but he's getting payback now. He's got so much more grip on the exit of the slow corners and just punishes Massa, puts him out wide, and now he can get up and after Alonso.
Great racing by Jenson Button, always happy to put a pass on someone. Massa wants a piece of him though, under braking into the hairpin. Button resists without having to go too defensive. Fisichella then right up behind his teammate. Ralf Schumacher in the Williams is there as well as David Coulthard, and here's the start again, Martin.
Yeah, reasonable start from just about everybody. You'll see the Toyota Panis parked at the back there. He did get away, but Barrichello then with the perfect start. Look at Alonso coming down the inside, very brave, but that is just, you know, you can make so much time in a Formula 1 car, it costs you millions, but put a start system on like that and it gains you at least a row every Grand Prix. Incredible.
Looking from Takuma Sato, who started back of the grid, 19th place. That's the Panis incident on the right. You can see hardly moving. Closing speed was immense. Down into this extremely tight turn 1. Lots of bumping and jostling. And that was Michael Schumacher refueling at the start. That's not happening now. That is a replay of what happened before the start. And here's another quick look at Jenson Button making that pass stick for 4th place then on Felipe Massa. Easy enough. There he goes. Look at Coulthard, he's so close behind Massa, you can hardly see him. Is he going to try the outside line? It's not been tried before. And he, well, caution the better part of Massa. He's contacted him, he's touched him.
I'm not sure did they touch? I think Coulthard locked up because Massa locked up going into the last part of turn 2 there before they come down the corkscrew into 3. And Coulthard having to get back on the brakes when he thought that was all over with. Massa with no grip at all at the front end in the slow corners. Coulthard, and he's just backing the whole pack up, look.
5th to 13th, separated by just over a second. Absolutely extraordinary how close they are here, bunched up. Look at Barrichello though. As I said before, the Bridgestone's in a difficult phase now in the Grand Prix, and that means Raikkonen is closing right up on Barrichello in the battle for the lead. Barrichello's done the fastest first sector. Raikkonen has done the fastest second sector of the race so far. But look at Button at the back of your screens there. He's having a go at Alonso. Alonso goes defensive. Button will not have any of it. He's coming down the inside, whether Alonso likes it or not. A cracking move from the British Bulldog, Jenson Button.
Nicely done. Then he covered his bases, covered the apex nicely and the exit. And he's got the speed to pull away from Alonso now and head off after the leading 2. It's looking very good for Button. Coulthard also has passed Massa out the back there somewhere. Alonso will dream about it, but there's no way through down into turn 1 unless Button makes a mistake. Meanwhile, Michael Schumacher now 27 seconds off the lead.
Fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far for Rubens Barrichello. Giancarlo Fisichella, what rotten luck for him. He's been held up by the Minardi. That's definitely cost him time. Doesn't look as though it's cost Coulthard too much time though. McLaren are ready for him, and the other Toyota as well of Zonta comes into the pits. Look at the dust as they came in. A lot of talk about this apron here being very slippery, but one or two of the mechanics a little bit concerned about their drivers coming in too hot, possibly knocking them over. But at the moment, no problems, I'm delighted to say, for everybody, as Coulthard rejoins the race. This is the scrap up front. It looks a bit closer now.
Yeah, Coulthard didn't clear the Sauber of Fisichella, followed him out of the pit lane, but they're in close company now. Ralf Schumacher has yet to pit, so there's a good squabble as well, not just the top 3, but Alonso, Ralf Schumacher, and I think Fisichella and Coulthard will all be in very close company when we finish the first round of stops.
Here's Michael Schumacher then. This is a move on Christian Klien for what was 13th place. Oh, that was serious contact. Has it bent anything on the Ferrari?
He got the full Christmas tree lights on the dashboard, whatever that means, but to be honest, that was coming from about 100 metres out, Michael. I think he thought Klien would maybe just politely move out of the way, but we've seen this so many times with Michael, haven't we? He does tend to run into people when he's coming back through the pack as the two leaders in the pits.
Yep, straight fight then between the two pit crews. Ferrari in first, a cloud of dust goes Jenson Button sets the fastest lap of the race so far. He's now taken over the lead, 1:33.4 for Button. He really wants this, doesn't he? Who's going to get out first? Barrichello is going to get out first, as you'd expect in the Ferrari. Raikkonen right behind him.
They both looked like they put quite a lot of fuel on board, didn't they? I didn't see the full times, but that's worked out beautifully for them too. Away from the traffic, so no turnaround of position, but both drivers will be satisfied with that. And I mean, obviously Raikkonen would have hoped to have leapfrogged the Ferrari, but he'll still be satisfied to be perfectly well within touch. But Button is flying. He knows this is a key part of the race. If he is carrying more fuel, now is when he's got to make the difference.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see what kind of strategy everyone employs. That looks to me like it could be a 2 or a 3 stop, probably a 2, I think, from both of the front runners. That was 8 seconds they were stationary for. Christian Klein we saw hitting Michael Schumacher in the hairpin just a minute ago, and well, his car's certainly been damaged. How's Michael's?
I think it was Michael hitting Christian, really, when you sort of see the replay of that one. Michael really, I think, just pushing his luck and everybody's luck too far in there. At least he's now back down to a 34 as Michael Schumacher, so no damage for him, it appears. Ted, have you got any more news?
I'm down at Ferrari. No, that's quite right, Martin. I've checked with the team. Michael hasn't radioed in with any damage. Says the car's fine, which is more than you can say for Klein. But all Ferrari very nervous, very happy about Rubens, though. I think they're pretty sure he's going to, well, do the job for them if Michael's not.
Well, I'll tell you the guy who's doing the job at the moment. That's Jenson Button, lap 14 out of 56 here at Shanghai, and Jenson Button still the fastest man on the racetrack, leading this Grand Prix from Fernando Alonso, who dives into the pits now from second place. So that promotes Ralf Schumacher in the Williams up into second place. Longish stop by Renault, and he goes back out as well. So Jenson Button leading once again, as he has quite often in the 2004 championship. Michael Schumacher benefiting from all these pit stops. He is up into 10th place, and now he's 6 seconds behind Takuma Sato in the sister BAR to this one. That's Button the leader, and Sato also making his way through the field. Remember, he started 19th on the grid because he had to have an engine change on Friday, which drops you automatically 10 places back on the grid from where you qualify. So soon we've got 2 very fast cars coming through the field, and Schumacher is behind another fast car, Takuma Sato. That's going to be very interesting.
Yes, Button was about 4 seconds adrift when Barrichello and Raikkonen pitted. Depends how long he can stay out, but of course he's now light on fuel, they're heavy on fuel, fresh tyres. Barrichello will have to go through the grainy phase yet again, and so BAR team out then in their fresh, differently coloured overalls, and he's in the pit, so he's not going quite as far as we'd hoped. And has he made up 4 seconds on them with those hot laps and a good in lap? We're about to find out, but it's a lot to do.
They certainly were very, very quick laps indeed. Rubens Barrichello, well, we're not getting any indication. He was slightly slower on his outlap than Kimi Raikkonen, so possibly some hope for Button. This is going to have to be a very slick stop here by BAR to get their man out.
I wonder if they'll even just short it slightly. Oh, slow away, Jenson. Oh, no, come on. No, what didn't work, something not quite right there, and there they go, there they go. He's actually lost some time. He must get ahead of the traffic, and he does just. So that cost him quite dearly, didn't it? Just didn't seem to want to get away from its stop. Watching the leading Ferrari of Barrichello here, but what's interesting for me is that Michael Schumacher has suddenly found a lot of pace. He was struggling in the early stages of the Grand Prix. Even in free air, he has, of course, had to go through a lot of the traffic, but now down in the 1:33.6s and really on the move. Brother Ralf Schumacher there, making his way around the hairpin. But Michael just seems to... And he spun! He really was pushing too hard for the looks of it. Schumacher off the side of the racetrack. That's to the entry of the back straight. I wonder what that's all about.
Lap 17 of what is turning out to be a terrific first ever Chinese Grand Prix at Shanghai. This racetrack has been designed to encourage free-flowing movement and overtaking. We've seen plenty of that. Michael Schumacher, though, has been in the wars again. Martin, traction control related?
It does look like that, although he's now flying again, and you'd have to say, did the traction control just drop out there? Because it's unusual these days to see the rear wheels spinning like that.
Schumacher Senior on the rampage, and well, some Chinese characters there on the back wing of Ralph's car. Probably says something like, honk if you think I'm driving well. But at the moment he's driving brilliantly and very defensively to keep his brother behind him. Out onto the back straight though. Can the Ferrari power over the slipstream overhaul Ralph? He goes to the left. Ralph's down the inside. Michael's going to try and drive down the outside. A nonchalant little wave to him as he goes by. And is Ralph going to have another go?
He's just having fun. No,
Is he
Ralph did not have a go at Michael. That was great. The wave was great, wasn't it? Let's just analyse this. Started from the pit lane, and he goes back into the pit lane. That's how far he's got. 21 laps. That's why he's pushing so hard. Had a spin, ran into clean, but he needs to make up about 46 seconds in 30 laps if he's going to win this Grand Prix. But unfortunately, he's got to start all over again now with fuel and go through that difficult period of the tyres. So let's keep an eye on his pace as he exits the pit. So Michael's in there somewhere. Surely he can't win this one, but if he can do those sort of laps, he's going to be in there somewhere. Louise is down with Christian Klien.
Christian, pretty aggressive move from Michael Schumacher. Do you feel maybe it was too aggressive?
I don't know, I have to check it in TV first, but yeah, just very disappointed to finish the race early. Just I went into the corner and went a bit wide because I saw this somewhere on the inside. But then he hit me on the rear and my suspension broke there, and I had to retire the race.
Thanks, Christian.
Yeah, I feel a bit sorry for him there, but he did kind of leave a big gap as if he had seen and was prepared to let Michael through, but it was for position. He was perfectly entitled to turn in, and Michael made sure to hit him square on with his front wheel.
So Schumacher emerged from that pit stop behind Jacques Villeneuve. So he's in 15th place now, and Villeneuve is 44 seconds behind race leader Rubens Barrichello. So Schumacher has a mountain to climb here at Shanghai.
10 seconds. You're about 1 second slower than Fernando at the moment, Jack, so push hard, please.
Team asking.
Am I losing the most? Sector one is your poorest.
Okay, Jacques' question was, where am I losing the time most? And he's been told in the first part of the lap, obviously, and an interesting conversation going on there in the race. And sometimes you're pushing as hard as you can, you think you're near the ragged edge, and you get a pit board or a message like that, and then you realise there's something extra in the track.
So Schumacher is behind Villeneuve, 3.5 seconds behind him, and that's going to be the battle for 13th place coming up shortly. At the moment on lap 22, Rubens Barrichello still only half a second behind Kimi Raikkonen. There's Raikkonen, you can see, just behind the race leader. Button has dropped back a little bit now. He's 8.5 seconds behind Raikkonen in 3rd place, with Alonso 4th, Ralf Schumacher 5th, and Giancarlo Fisichella in 6th place. As a very bald set of Bridgestone tyres come off the Sauber of Felipe Massa. He was the first car to pit first time round, and he's the first one to make his second stop here this afternoon of the front runners.
Barrichello 1.1 seconds ahead of Raikkonen, just edging it out a tenth at a time. Button 14 seconds off the lead now, and Rubens there clearing the Minardi nicely before the hairpin. It's important. Every little move like this now could have an effect on the final outcome of the Grand Prix. And Raikkonen pits, and he pits right behind the Minardi, and he's going to be so unhappy about that, because and that's an early stop again for Raikkonen. Then the Minardi will not attack the speed line like he would want it to have done, and especially if he doesn't get out before him as well. So bad news for McLaren and Kimi Raikkonen.
But it's interesting, two of them stopped at the same time, Barrichello and Raikkonen, last time on lap 12. They took on an almost identical amount of fuel. This is a very short stop here for Kimi Raikkonen. I wonder whether he feels he's being held up by Rubens Barrichello. The margin was only pretty small, and well, he's obviously trying something a little bit different here, and he blends back in just in front of that will be Alonso.
Yeah, he was 27 seconds ahead of Alonso, so they knew they could get him in, get him stopped and away again. And as you say, they've short-filled him. This is to try and give him track position, which is why that sort of second or two he lost behind the Minardi that would not be attacking, as I say, the left-hander in the pit lane and the speed line in the same way.
It was interesting seeing Fisichella there He went out on a set of tyres that looked as though they'd done some mileage. I know Sauber was scrubbing in tyres during the free practice session, and well, we'll get more for you on that. It certainly seems to me as though they're trying a different tactic down at Sauber. That was not a new set of tyres. Louise Goodman, what can you tell us?
Well, not a lot, James. I'm down at BAR. I've been trying to find out what's happening with Jenson Button. He hasn't said anything to the team over the radio. What I can say, though, is that Jeff Willis, the technical director, is sat out on the pit wall looking cool, calm and very collected. If there was some kind of issue, he would generally come back into the garage and have a look at the telemetry. So let's hope no news is good news.
I think I've worked out what McLaren were doing there. Villeneuve is being caught by Michael Schumacher, and I think McLaren wanted to get Raikkonen back out before Schumacher got in front. Because the later they went on that with Raikkonen before making the pit stop, there's a chance that he might have come out behind Michael Schumacher, which wouldn't have been a good thing. Michael Schumacher certainly going pretty quickly at the moment, closing down Jacques Villeneuve, and at the moment Raikkonen's made a stop and he's in front of Michael Schumacher.
Barrichello's responded to Raikkonen's early stop tactics by doing a new fastest lap of the race, a 32.4. You'd have to wonder if they're in there, why he hasn't been pulling them out a little bit earlier. Coulthard's pitting from 6th place in the sister McLaren, but Barrichello then responding with an incredibly fast lap time. Montoya doing a wall of death around the outside of the final turn. He's down in 8th at the moment, having a bit of an ordinary weekend, Juan Pablo.
Yeah, towards the end of a fairly ordinary season by his standards, no wins. And it's been pretty lean times for Juan Pablo Montoya, on his way to McLaren next year, replacing David Coulthard, as we know. And well, he's going to have a stiff challenge there, isn't he? His teammate to Kimi Raikkonen, very much the coming man in Formula One. Raikkonen shown as being 3rd now on the racetrack, having made that 2nd pit stop. And Rubens Barrichello, that's why he was going quickly. He's coming in too for his 2nd stop of the afternoon. So it looks very much as though the 2 race leaders are on a 3-stop plan here this afternoon. We know Michael Schumacher has got only 1 brief pit stop to make towards the end of the Grand Prix. Is he still a contender here, Michael Schumacher? Never, ever count him out.
Schumacher hasn't managed to get past Villeneuve in 11th and 12th places at the moment. Solid stop for Ferrari. The rear tyres only just on before the refueling was finished. That's unusual. And Raikkonen still being held up, coming down the pit straight, and it hasn't worked out at all well for them.
No, it hasn't, has it? Not enough time for Kimi Raikkonen to make a difference there. The Minardi, well, it held him up on the way into the pit stop, one of them, and the other one held him up on the way out. So Raikkonen not able to get in front of Barrichello. But he has got a good distance between himself and Michael Schumacher. Alonso is in 4th place then behind Raikkonen. 5th is Ralf Schumacher. 6th Takuma Sato. 7th Juan Montoya. 8th David Coulthard. 9th then Giancarlo Fisichella. The Saubers fading a little bit then in the middle part of this Grand Prix, having had a very, very strong start. Both Massa and Fisichella just drifting out of the picture now. But we're riding on board with Jenson Button. Another 6 points here this afternoon for the BAR team would take them past the magic 100 points in the championship season. And in previous years, that's been enough to, well, certainly to be the champions. But BAR having a terrific season, and at the moment holding off Renault in that fight for 2nd in the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, with that sort of dexterity, I reckon Alonso get a job driving a transit van around the M25. That's the only other time I've seen people doing so many things at the wheel. But Fernando then being very clear with the team, though. It was good in terms of he absolutely, he made his mind up and he was going to stick with it. It wasn't a discussion point as far as he was concerned.
Talking of the M25, the traffic here in Shanghai getting into and out of the circuits has made the M25 look like a freeway. It's absolutely extraordinary. Car ownership here in China really is on the increase for a country that's still the vehicle of choice is still the bicycle, but you can see how car ownership exploding over the next few years, and well, it may well be gridlocked by the time we come back here in 5 years' time, but it's certainly the car industry is getting its claws into China, and that's a big part of why we're here racing this weekend. So Honda, Mercedes-Benz, BMW and the rest can advertise and sell their cars here, and Toyota, to the Chinese people. There goes Button sailing past the Toyota and goes through to complete another lap, still in the lead. There's David Richards, team boss, on the pit wall. And you've heard a whisper that maybe Button might stay at the team next year if at the moment the lawyers are beginning to think that it's heading towards BAR.
Yeah, That's just the feeling in the paddock, as it seems to be at least the legal resolution may be heading BIR's direction. Whether there's any subsequent wheeling and dealing goes on remains to be seen, but it's taking some time. It's going to be well into October before we know. But interesting that Jenson Button is still on the racetrack, because if he's only two stopping, then he's got to stop one more time, as has Barrichello and Raikkonen, and he's currently 8 seconds ahead of them. So all of a sudden, that slightly slower pace after the first stop begins to make more sense.
It does begin to make a lot of sense. If he stopped on lap 14 stationary for about 9 seconds, which he was, that would put him making a second stop around about lap 35 or 36, which is bang on target for a classic two-stop strategy here at Shanghai. So that is what was going on, we think, with the BAR Honda of Jenson Button. And that means he's in pretty good shape. He's 8 seconds ahead of Barrichello and Raikkonen, and they've all got to stop once more. Ted, what can you tell us? Yeah, it's becoming clear down in the BAR garage that that's most likely the case. There's no activity from any of the mechanics. They're standing by. They know they've got until maybe, well, as you say, lap 37, possibly lap 38. And the good thing is that Jenson is now matching Raikkonen's pace, and that's absolutely crucial. If he can keep this gap, he's got a really, really good chance.
He'll have a longer pit stop, though. He's got to take on board more fuel. It seems almost sure. It depends just how far he can go, but all of a sudden it's turning around and looking very nice for Button. So 3 men still very much in with a chance of winning this race. Now keep an eye on this. Will Jenson take the last corner, or does he have to pit? It's a pity if he does. He'll be at the end of lap. He's going into pits. The end of lap 35. I wish he was going just 2 or 3 laps further than that. But still got a chance, still got a very good chance.
This needs to be a good stop by the BAR Honda crew. They've gone up from Division 2 to Division 1 this year in performance. The pit crew need to take a similar step. Ted.
Jenson is steady into the box, not particularly quick, but there's no problem putting the scrub tyres on, the fuel going in, so this should well see him to the end of the race. It will. A very quick getaway for Jenson. Good stop, BAR.
And Michael Schumacher's got a problem. He's got some difficulty with the steering. Looks like the left rear corner, left rear puncture for Michael Schumacher in a weekend where everything seems to have gone wrong. Well, he races in the colour red. As I said, he was asked by a Chinese reporter whether he raced that because it was lucky. It's been so unlucky here for Michael Schumacher. Everything that could have happened to him this weekend has happened. He's now got a puncture, and the chance of scoring any points in the first ever Chinese Grand Prix have gone right out of the window for the 7 times world champion.
Well, the carcass is just about staying intact. Outboard, it doesn't do any damage. As long as it doesn't start damaging the suspension and the outboard section of the rear wing, then he'll get away with it. In the pit lane he goes. The cars don't want to slow down, even from slow speed, because that you've got the left rear is low, so the right front goes up in the air and just waves around effectively, and gives you very little stopping power. So Schumacher will have to coast into the pits very slowly, otherwise he'll go sailing straight through, and that's exactly what he does.
Well, he started this Grand Prix from the pit lane rather than his more customary pole position. He's back again a little more soon than he had anticipated after that puncture. Michael Schumacher having a miserable afternoon. Kimi Raikkonen has dived into the pits from 2nd place. He's making his 3rd stop of the afternoon then. And crucially, of course, he's racing against Jenson Button and Rubens Barrichello.
Minardi getting out of shape. I think that's up about turn 7 or 8. And Button then has come through in 2nd place. So Jenson Button with all of his stops out of the way and looking very, very good. Barrichello leads at this time. Ralf Schumacher recovering from a spin down at the hairpin.
Yep, there is Ralf Schumacher. Whoa! He's thought about going into the pits, changed his mind, and then changed his mind again. That's highly unconventional tactics there from Ralf Schumacher. That didn't look accidental to me. That looked like a sudden late change of mind. Lap 38. Seems to be a bit of a miscommunication here for Williams.
Stop totally. Whatever you want. Stop. Okay.
A classic error of communication, and Ralf Schumacher tries to park in the McLaren garage. It's total chaos.
So that's why then. Damaged rear suspension for Ralf Schumacher, why the car was handling like it was drunk on the way into the pit lane. And
that's Coulthard, who's obviously got a front left puncture as a result of the contact at the hairpin. So punctures are plenty. For this on this occasion, it's not they're not happening by themselves, they're happening because of contact. And into the pits comes David Coulthard from what was 8th place. Just 17 laps to go in the first ever Chinese Grand Prix at Shanghai. Across the pit straight goes the race leader, Rubens Barrichello, in front of 30,000 people in that massive grandstand who've come along to see what Formula One is all about, and they have seen a tremendous race. We're still not 100% sure who's going to win it, because Rubens Barrichello getting badly held up by the Renault. At the moment, he's 25 seconds ahead of Jenson Button. He still has to make another pit stop, though. It's going to be really nip and tuck between the two of them when Barrichello comes out. And here's an incident between Coulthard and Ralf Schumacher from a few moments ago.
Yes, DC really pushing his luck there. I think Ralf would have been busy watching the Renault, and Coulthard coming in quite late. It would have surprised Ralf. It broken Ralph's rear suspension, which is why we saw him squirreling all over the place before we went to the break.
A wheel flying off there. That's one of the Minardis. Either Bruni or Baumgartner, both still in the Grand Prix. It's Baumgartner, and is that going down the pit lane?
I don't think so. I think it's at the back. I think it's the pit lane for the support racers. The left front obviously not gone on properly at a pit stop. You're not going to have one shearing off or anything like that. But you can. That demonstrates just how stiff the cars are in terms of their rigidity and the suspension. They will drive along on three wheels, but the
try to come in.
Telling him to stay off the racing line, and well, that's pretty useful advice. I'm sure he feels a lot of frustration in that car as the race leader comes into the pits with a 28-second advantage over Jenson Button in second place. Ted Kravitz, can he win this race from here?
He certainly can. This one's going to be close, though, and Ferrari don't make mistakes. The wheels are on, the fuel is on, that's fine. It's a very quick stop. Rubens Barrichello away.
And possibly on his way to victory. There goes Michael Schumacher. We're normally talking about him in terms of victory. Came here this weekend looking for win number 13. And Jenson Button there at the top of your frames. And that's Heartbreak Hotel for Jenson. Just didn't have the speed after that second pit stop to overhaul Rubens Barrichello, having led for quite a bit of this Grand Prix, Jenson. But, well, second place is no bad thing. It would take BAR past the magic 100 mark in the championship. So Button is in second place. The crucial thing, though, for him is he managed to jump Kimi Raikkonen through the pit stop sequence. He is in second place. Raikkonen is third. Fisichella has pitted just now from fourth place, which means Alonso is up to fourth. There is Fisichella, with Massa also up there in fifth place at the moment, but yet to make his third stop of the afternoon. On board with Michael Schumacher, lying in 12th place. Been an eventful afternoon for the world champion. He's now once again stuck behind Jacques Villeneuve.
So Michael, 2 seconds behind, 2 seconds. Very good improvement through the high speed down lap, very good.
Just giving Jacques some feedback on his previous lap, and to tell him that Michael Schumacher's bearing down on him. They seem to have been running line astern for quite some time now. They're 80 seconds away from the leader. Michael Schumacher's been backwards down the main straight, spinning off in the final corner onto that straight. The corner, the right-hander just coming up. He's had a puncture. He's been in all sorts of trouble. Had contact with clean starter from the pit lane. I'm rather impressed he didn't park it actually at the end of his lap when he had the puncture. Would have been very tempting, I'd imagine, after the afternoon he's had. Does he have a chance? He's had so much straight line speed this afternoon. I half expect him to be up alongside Villeneuve as Michael Schumacher does pick up the toe halfway down the straight. That should now be a clean pass, although Villeneuve's going to make him work as hard as he can for it, but Michael had that completely covered. Barrichello leads by 6.7 seconds from Jenson Button. Raikkonen 5.4 behind in third as Michael Schumacher pits yet again. That'll be number 4 this afternoon then, and it's really all falling apart, isn't it? It's You wonder what's going to happen next to him. Completely out of sync.
The gap is now under a second between second place and third place. At the end of this lap, there'll be just 2 to go. Well, this victory, if it comes for Rubens Barrichello, will confirm him in second in the World Championship. And if Button can stay where he is, that will be third for him. But Raikkonen sliding the car, getting the back end out, chasing after Jenson Button in second place. Hunting may have been banned in Great Britain, but hunting Button has not been banned for Kimi Raikkonen. He's really got a sniff of this.
It's a lot to do, though. Catching is one thing, passing is quite another, as you will have heard 1,000 times. But certainly he's hanging out, isn't he? A 32.8, then a 32.9, 1 minute 32.9 for Kimi Raikkonen, and that's why he's just to say. But it's not Button slow at all. Button's putting some very nice laps together. Barrichello is just pacing himself out front. He's not under threat. It's Jenson Button that'll be rather nervously checking his mirrors. But they're even Stevens at the end of the first sector. That's how it looks on the track too, isn't it?
Yeah, we saw Raikkonen sliding the back of the car at the end of that last lap. At the moment, Button is pushing hard. Raikkonen can see him. He's just looking for mistakes, trying to make him make a mistake, trying to get closer to him to force him into some sort of difficulty. You can see he just can't quite get there at the moment because Button is responding magnificently to this challenge from Kimi Raikkonen. And I said yesterday and again today, there's been nothing to choose between these two men all weekend for pace. Their grid slots were decided by a matter of hundredths of a second. All through practice, they've been right together for best of the rest behind the Ferrari. And well, today they're not that far behind the Ferrari, are they? And not much to choose between them once again. And Barrichello a little bit held up there by Villeneuve.
It's not a problem, but will Villeneuve come into play for Button? And the BAR, of course, which no love lost there between Villeneuve and the BAR team. And there we go then. I think with 1 lap to go, should just about be okay. But Button and just 0.8 ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. Raikkonen will be right behind him at the end of this lap.
Yes, an interesting situation for Villeneuve. He is a back marker. He will have to get out of the way or be heavily penalised. He's also a professional racing driver and he knows he has to get out of the way. But let's remind ourselves, he is here with his goal for the Renault team to try and get them in front of BAR in the Constructors' Championship in the last 3 Grand Prix. Any help he can give to slow Jenson Button down and spoil his afternoon, I'm sure he'd like to, but as a back marker, it's a big call.
Yeah, he's a total pro. Jacques just will not get involved in that sort of thing. I'm pretty sure of that. But Jenson's got to catch him first. But it could well happen towards the end of the lap. There's Rubens then, free and clear. Villeneuve between them. Villeneuve getting a touch wide there, giving Button a face full of dust that he really doesn't need at this stage.
This is the last lap of the Chinese Grand Prix. We were on tenterhooks at the start. We're on tenterhooks at the finish. It could well come down to that long back straight. We're on it now. It could well come down to Kimi Raikkonen making a desperate lunge down the inside of Jenson Button. Can he get close enough? The Honda horsepower pushing that BAR down the straight. There's no toe for Raikkonen. It doesn't look like he's going to get close enough to have a try. Button, it looks as though it's going to stay safely in second place. Villeneuve gets well and truly out of the way. Webber gets out of Rubens Barrichello's way. And Rubens Barrichello comes through to cross the start-finish line and win the first ever Chinese Grand Prix with almost a photo finish between Button and Raikkonen for second. Tremendous race. Ross Brawn there, congratulated by Luca Di Montezemolo. That is Jenson Button's father, John. Tears in his eyes. He's been squeezing the counter hard. And just for good measure, Michael Schumacher, never a contender in this Grand Prix, sets the fastest lap of the race right at the very end, 1:32.2. He may not be the daddy today, but he's just reminding everyone of what they can expect in Suzuka in a couple of weeks.
Driver of the day, Rubens Barrichello, the ultimate team player, delivers. Jenson Button again on the podium. That is so important for BAR. Raikkonen, a winner in Spa, giving us a thunderous climax. A soaking for Montezemolo. A spicy first taste of F1 for China. They can't wait for a second helping. Very important new frontier for Formula One. We demanded a good race. We got it. We saw a perfect racing weekend for Rubens Barrichello as well. Back-to-back victories then for Barrichello, the very popular Brazilian. Jenson Button up there as well, his 9th podium. Super Raikkonen on the podium after that thrilling climax. Alonso is the only Renault scorer. Montoya, a bit of a low-key fifth for the Colombian. Sato, precious points for BAR, and both Saubers, Fisichella and Massa, they register as well. But it's Barrichello who takes the first Chinese victory.
Rubens, you've done it again, pole position and victory, getting to be a bit of a habit.
I hope so. It's if I could do that, it was going to be amazing. But it's the fact is that I think the team has been supporting me quite well, and two races on the trot like this is just amazing. I mean, to come to China, a new place, a new venue, important for everyone, important for Ferrari, for Fiat. So it's been amazing.
We didn't make it easy for ourselves on the first lap. I mean, the start was not what we wanted. Lost 2 places, which is it's been like that a couple of races now. So we've got to sort that problem out. But after that, I think we had a pretty good race. 2-stop worked reasonably well for us, and we thought we had him after my second stop. But the car was just so heavy, I couldn't really push any harder.
Kimi, that was absolutely fantastic at the end with Jensen. I mean, you got close to him. Did you run out of laps, or with a few more, did you think you could have passed him?
Yeah, I think so. We ran out of the laps. We just for maybe 4 laps more, we could have maybe done something. But it's always if so, it doesn't change the situation anymore.
That was not my weekend, but I've had so many good weekends this year. We have still won the Chinese Grand Prix with Rubens, and those are the important factors.
Question about Michael. Disasters in qualifying, spins in the race. What's going on?
Nothing really. I mean, I think he saved up all his worst bits till the end when it didn't matter. I mean, I said before that he'd not put a foot wrong this year. And when you think over the period of a year, he had a spin in very difficult conditions in Monza, and he had a couple of spins here this weekend, which is not bad for a whole season.
Just no way to get back on the track after that tangle with David Coulthard.
Well, I mean, there was no possibility to change tyres, and then I was told to switch the car off to get out. Then afterwards, after we find out, the car was still alright, but it was too late to get out again. It was 2 laps down and was no sense.
The stewards are investigating the incident. Do you expect them to take any action?
Well, I don't know. You never know with the stewards anyway, so I just wait and see. It's like a gamble.
A bit ambitious on my move on Ralph, but everyone had so much more top line speed than us that we were just being left of the straight. So I managed to catch Massa by surprise with that move. But Ralph, I was quite a long way back, and he'd obviously started to turn in, so unfortunate.
That is how they will finish F1 2004. Michael Schumacher first, Rubens Barrichello second, Jenson Button third. Alonso on 50 points, truly out of it. Montoya and Alonso, that's still a lively battle. Raikkonen on 34 points, and Takuma Sato moves into the top 8. Interesting, this one. Ferrari away and gone. It's now a 9-point gap between BAR and Renault. Another excellent 11 points from Button and Sato. McLaren close up to within 6 of Williams. 3 points for Sauber. Very much as you wear for the rest. Good Grand Prix, Tony. At the start, though, Jenson Button lost a lot of ground. We shouldn't be surprised when the Renaults move away from everybody else.
No, but a bit disconcerting for him because the Renault rocket ship down the inside, Fernando Alonso, whilst the other two get away cleanly, Barrichello and Raikkonen. Just look at him, down the white line, down the pit wall as usual. But worryingly for Jenson, he lost another place to Massa as well. I thought, oh, well, he's going to be struggling here in this big battle for second in the constructors. Look at Sato starting from the back, and that was Panis on the right-hand side, very slow starting. And could have been really, really dangerous there. The closing speeds were incredible.
The circuit designer Herman Tilke says you will see overtaking here. Jenson Button was obviously listening to him.
Yeah, and some people say, Jenson's weakness is his overtaking, but we saw him with Montoya in Monza force him into an error. And look at this, Jenson fights back immediately and gets that 4th place back from Massa going inside him here. Just waiting a little bit. Massa almost thinks about closing the door. He's through. Does the same to Alonso at the end of the straight. Beautifully. Very, very clean indeed. Gets 3rd place back here. Alonso has a little look. Fernando, can I have a nip back at him? No. Button's gone.
What a very strange weekend for Michael Schumacher. Had to go. The cameraman starts from the pit lane. And, well, I mean, he has a clash with Christian Klien as well. Put the Austrian out of the race.
Yeah, well, this was very much karting style as well. This was like he was at Kirpen. And he absolutely bangs wheels fair and square. The front one and the left one as well. breaks clearance suspension, puts him out of the race. It wasn't Christian's fault. He was turning in. He didn't see Michael Schumacher there at all. No damage, absolutely amazing. And yet Michael starts setting these really, really fast laps, and then he loses it and goes into this spin just 3 laps later, and he got into the 1:32s, and we thought, could he get to the podium? By lap 35, going to lap 36, he's been running over the curbs, he's picked up some debris, left rear puncture, and he hobbles back to the pits. It's all happened to Schumacher this weekend.
What's happened to him since he's won the title? Is he feeling his age a bit? He's 35 now.
He's had a long, hard season. You know, he's had 12 incredible wins, 7 championships. I think when you've done it all like that, you lose a bit of motivation. And certainly if you don't keep it right up there, you lose that little bit of an edge. And that's what's happened to him. But you wait till the beginning of next season, he'll be back with his tail up.
We had a super finish to this Grand Prix with the young chances, Jenson Button and Kimi Räikkönen, and the Finn kept Jenson very honest, didn't he?
Yeah, because BAR put one over on them on the strategy, you know, and Ron Dennis wouldn't have been happy about that. Just 2 stops, and they weren't sure what BAR were doing with 3 laps to go, 1.5 seconds. And Kimi was mighty, superb, the wonderful driver he is. 0.7 going into this final lap, but he couldn't quite do it. Fabulous finish with a flourish, all the fireworks spreading out there as Barrichello goes past to acknowledge the victory, and Button goes close to the wall to wave to his team. Second place.
I want a comment from you on Juan Pablo Montoya and also the returning Jacques Villeneuve.
Well, I thought they were both very, very poor, I have to say. Juan Pablo was whinging before the start of the race. He was lackluster. He went into 5th place. Villeneuve, and if their prospective employers were watching, as they would be, both Sauber and McLaren, they'd both be equally disappointed. And the tactics of trying to use Villeneuve by Briatore at Renault haven't worked.
Great show from China, though.
Fantastic. All round, thumbs up. What a success.
Absolutely. Our next port of call will be Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix. Extensive coverage throughout the weekend, qualifying just before 3 o'clock on the Saturday afternoon. We go live with the Japanese Grand Prix from 6 on the Sunday morning on ITV1. The rerun ran about lunchtime at 2:15, highlights at 11:45. It has been a perfect season for Ferrari. Barrichello has confirmed that. We say well done to Jenson Button, the best non-Ferrari driver. Above all, though, we congratulate China on a spectacular arrival to the Formula One world. Good night to you all.